Hello, tourism learners. Welcome to Grade 10 2025 Junior Examination. So I'm going to go through the Junior Examination question paper. So the instructions say that you are supposed to answer all questions in all sections. So this question paper consists of 4 sections. So you answer all the questions then. In addition to that, you must always stick to the mark allocation for each question as a guide of the length of your answer. So section A basically is going to be made up of short questions which constitutes 25 marks. Then map and tour planning will contribute to 30 marks. Tourism sectors will contribute 30 marks. Then domestic, regional, and international tourism will contribute 15 marks. So moving on to the first section, which consists of short questions. We do have multiple choice questions. So for each multiple choice question, we'll choose the best alternative or the best response in each scenario. So 4 options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the answer and write only the letter A to D next to the question number 1.1.1 up to 1.1.10 in the answer book, for example, 1.1.111 D. So we have a tourist who is flying. A tourist from London visiting South Africa is referred to SN. So we need to first trace the origin of this particular tourist. This is a tourist who is coming from London. So we know that London, this is actually a foreign country. So the tourist is coming from a foreign country. Then he is visiting South Africa, which is the place where we are currently. So a tourist from London visiting South Africa is referred to as an inbound international tourist, simply because the first thing, he or she is crossing a border, then he or she is coming into a country. So the correct term then in that particular scenario is inbound international tourists. Then moving on to 1.1.2, this type of accommodation establishment is an example of a. So if we look at the image carefully, you can see that what we have is actually labeled bed and breakfast. So this is a bed and breakfast, but let's look at our alternatives which have been given. So number A, we have guest accommodation. Guest accommodation. So guest accommodation would be the appropriate response for this particular answer. So I'll need to explain why we are eliminating the rest. So we are eliminating B simply because B says self-catering accommodation. So in this scenario, B won't be suitable simply because the guest is going to be provided with a bed. Then in addition to that, in the morning, they'll be provided with breakfast. So self-catering would be out there. Then backpacker accommodation. Backpackers are tourists who are usually associated with hostels. So backpacker accommodation won't be appropriate. Then caravan and camping accommodation would also not be appropriate. So the best answer in this scenario is guest accommodation. Now moving on to the next question. The private sector refers to, when you are talking about the private sector. Remember, in tourism grade 10, we do have 2 different sectors. We have the private sector and we also have the public sector. So when we are talking about the private sector, basically, we are talking about businesses which are not operated by the government, businesses which are in private hands. They are owned by individuals, they are run by individuals, they are not controlled in any way by the government. So that is what constitutes the private sector. Then 1.1.4. Then we have abbreviations, various abbreviations. So we are looking for an abbreviation which represents the interest of members in the hospitality industry. So we need the name of the organization which represents the interest of members in the hospitality industry. So in this case, the name of the organization is known as FEDASA. So the letter D will be our appropriate response for that particular question. Then moving on to the next question. Okay, moving on to 1.1.5, an example of the sports and recreation attraction subsector is. So if in this particular scenario, we are going to look at the answer which relates to sports and recreation. So obviously, Lisedi Cultural Village will be out simply because Lisedi Cultural Village is all about culture and heritage. So it won't be appropriate. The same applies to the Apartheid Museum. The Apartheid Museum won't be a suitable answer simply because it's the main theme of the Apartheid Museum is centering on history of the struggle against apartheid. So it won't be appropriate. But if we look at C, the Netball World Cup would be an appropriate response simply because this is closely related to sports and recreation. Remember, netball, it's a sporting discipline in its own right. So that will be closely related to the sports and recreation attraction subsector. So C will be our correct answer. Moving on to 1.1.6, the Mediterranean island group is between. So we are looking at the location of the Mediterranean island group. So the Mediterranean island group, it is found in the Mediterranean Sea, which lies in between Africa and Europe. So that's where you find the Mediterranean island group. It lies between Africa and Europe. So this is a type of question which is testing your map work skills. Moving on to 1.1.7, the abbreviation used for per person per day. Per person per day. So in this scenario, per person per day would be represented by the abbreviation D, which is P, 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 D. Or you can say triple P, then also D. Per person per day. It will be triple P, then we also have D. Moving on to the next question. The next question, it is also testing on the map work skill. These maps focus specifically on attractions in an area. So the maps which focus specifically on attractions in an area, they are known as tourist information maps. So in this case, we are going to choose the letter C as our appropriate response to answer that particular question. 1.1.9, the 3-star rating of a hotel means that the tourist can expect the following. So in this scenario, we need the characteristics which make up a 3-star hotel or a hotel which is rated 3 stars. So if we look at the options which we are given here, so the first one is acceptable standard guest care and service. Perhaps that can be a 1-star hotel. Then good quality in the overall standards that can apply it into another category. So the answer which we are looking at, then it will be very good quality, very good quality in service. So our correct answer will be C in that scenario. Moving on to 1.10, regional travel for South Africa, for a South African tourist refers to travel to. So when we are saying a South African is traveling within the region, it simply means that they are going to the neighboring countries which are in the SADC region. For example, Botswana, Lesotho. Then we also have the likes of Zambia. So in this case, Botswana will be the correct answer there. So Botswana will be our correct answer. Now moving on to the next question, or the next section. We have been given images there. So the question reads, match the picture of the mode of transport. So the topic which is in focus is actually transportation in the tourism industry. So match the picture of the mode of transport with the correct description below. Write only the question number 1.2.1 to 1.2.5 and the correct letter in the answer book, e.g. 1.2.26F. So we have in A, so we have A, which is a cruise liner. Then we also have camels, which appear in image B. Then we also have a vehicle, perhaps a rented vehicle, which appears in image C. Then we also have a plane, which appears in image D. Then moving on to the last image, we also have a train service, which is probably the Gautrain train service. So the question reads, match the picture of the mode of transport with the correct description below. So let's go to the descriptions themselves. So the first description is looking for, this transport gives you flexibility to choose your own routes. So when you're using this particular transport, you have the flexibility of choosing your own routes. So if you look at A won't be a suitable option for us simply because cruise liners, they operate according to a particular route. So they won't be applicable. If you look at B, camels only operate in the desert environment. They are used in deserts. They cannot be used in cities. Then if we look at C, when you're driving your own vehicle, you can actually choose your own route. When you're driving your own vehicle, you can go wherever you want at any given time. So our correct answer in this scenario will be the letter C. So I'm going to indicate the letter C next to the question. So in this case, C, which is a personal vehicle, a personal car, will be appropriate for this. A personal car. All right. Moving on to the next one. The mode of transport which travels at a speed of 160 kilometers per hour. So let's go back. So it means C, we are crossing it out because it has already been taken. So we are looking at other options A, B, C, A, B, D, and A. So just to repeat the question, the mode of transport travels at a speed of 160 kilometers per hour. So let's eliminate the answers which we don't need. Cruise ships, they don't travel at 160 kilometers per hour. Then camels are way slower than that. They cannot even reach 160 kilometers per hour. Then an aeroplane goes beyond. It is actually faster than 160 kilometers per hour. So our appropriate answer would be E. E, which is the Gautrain train service. It can travel at a maximum speed of 160 kilometers per hour. Let's move on to the next question. The advantage of this mode is that there is minimal impact on the environment. So we are E has already been used, so we are not going to be using E. So we are left with three options there. So we need a type of transport which has minimal effect on the environment. If you look at A, cruise liner ships or cruise ship liners, they actually pollute the environment. So we cannot include them then. They actually pollute the environment, so they are out. Then we'll move on to B. B, we do have camels, which are animals which are adapted to the natural environment. So B, camel, would be the appropriate answer for question 1.2.3. The advantage of this mode of transport is that there is minimal impact on the environment. So camels do not disturb the environment. So we would rather opt for camels in this particular scenario. Then moving on to the next question. It reads, a very luxurious mode of transport. So a very luxurious mode of transport in this case would be the cruise ship. The cruise ship, if you look at it, it is literally a floating hotel with all facilities and services provided in our site. So a cruise liner would be the correct option for this one. So a cruise liner, it will be the answer which matches this description. Remember, cruise liners are luxurious. They have, or they are literally floating hotels with all services and amenities provided on board. Entertainment facilities are also on board. Then 1.2.5, this mode of transport is fast and can carry large numbers of tourists. So the only remaining option then, it will be D, which is the aeroplane. So the aeroplane is extremely fast and it also carries large numbers of tourists. So the aeroplane would be our correct response there, the aeroplane. So these are the different options which we have given for each. I'm just going to do a quick rundown for each and every option. So 1.2.1, this transport gives you your flexibility to choose your own route. That will be a personal car. The mode of transport which travels at a speed of 160 kilometers per hour, we have train. The advantage of this mode is that there is minimal impact on the environment, that's the camel. A very luxurious mode of transport, that is a cruise line. Then a mode of transport that is fast and can carry large numbers of tourists, that will be your aeroplane. So that is 1.2. Moving on to 1.3. So we start by reading the instruction first. Choose the correct words from those given in brackets. Write only the words next to the question number. For example, 1.3.1 to 1.3.5 in the answer book, e.g. 1.3.6 map scale. Moving on to 1.3.1. It is an electronic map that gives satellite images of everything on Earth. So the first thing which we need to highlight here is an electronic map. So this is not a map this is not a standard map which you find on paper. It is a map which appears in electronic format. So in this case, our correct answer then, I'll highlight the correct answer in yellow. So Google Earth is an electronic map that gives satellite images on everything on Earth. So Google Map, it is an electronic map that gives satellite images on everything on Earth. So the correct answer in that particular scenario, that's Google Map. Google Earth, sorry. Google Earth, that is an electronic map. Then 1.3.2, legend or direction shows symbols on a map to assist in identifying specific places. So this is actually done by a legend. Legends, they use small pictures or small icons or symbols on a map to assist in identifying specific places. So the correct answer here, it will be legend. Legend is the term which we are looking for. Legends. So we write the correct answer next to the description. Then 1.3.3, a distance indicator or GPS is a system that uses satellites to determine exact positions. So that is the function of the global positioning system, which is abbreviated as GPS. So GPS is our correct answer there, highlighted in yellow. So GPS is a system that uses satellites to determine exact positions. So that is GPS. That is a satellite system that uses satellites to determine exact positions. Moving on to 1.3.4, grid references or distance tables can be used to locate a specific place or feature on a map. So if you want to locate a specific feature or a place, you have to make use of grid references. So grid references are the ones which are used to locate a specific feature or place on a map. You make use of grid references. 1.3.5, a measurement of 1 as to 50,000 centimeter represents direction. So this is, represents scale. This is a measure of what? Of scale. Remember, scale can be represented as a ratio. It can also be represented as a statement, or it can be done in linear scale. So this is an example of scale. So I'm going to write the correct answer, which is scale, there next to it. Then also grid references on 1.3.4. We also need to write it. So which brings us to question 1.4, which requires us to choose a term from column B that matches the description in column A. Write only the letter A to G next to the question number. For example, from 1.4.1 to 1.4.5 in the answer book. For example, 1.4.6H. So we do have various descriptions which appear in column A. So then we also have the letters which appear in the middle, and also some terms which appear on the far right. So the first term which we have, it requires us to determine the 180-degree line of longitude that determines the date. So the line of longitude which determines the date, it is known as the international date line, which appears in D. So the international dateline, D will be our correct response. So the international dateline, it is the line of longitude which determines date. That is the international dateline. So one or two things, facts which I can add about the ideal. When you cross the ideal from west to east, when you cross the ideal from west to east, you actually get ahead in time. You might lose a day. And when you do the opposite, when you cross the ideal from east to west, you might gain a day. So that is how the ideal works. Then 1.4.2, a 15-degree difference in the line of longitude that results in a 1 hour time difference. This is known as a time zone. The time zone, it is the 15-degree difference which results in 1 hour time difference. So our correct answer in that scenario would be A. Moving on to 1.4.3, the imaginary line of latitude that divides the Earth into the northern and southern hemisphere. So this is an imaginary line which divides the Earth into the northern and the southern hemisphere. It is known as the equator. It is known as the equator. So the equator is represented by the letter F. So the letter F would be the correct answer for 1.4.3. Then South Africa uses this time zone. Moving on to 1.4.4, South Africa uses the +2 time zone. South Africa lies within the +2 time zone. So +2 would be our correct answer. +2 would be our correct answer, which is represented by the letter F. So by the letter F. So for 1.4.3, that's E, point of correction. Then for 1.4.4, that would be the letter F. Okay. Moving on to 1.4.5, a standard line by which the world measures time. So all time calculations of world times or all world time zones are calculated using a line which is known as the universal time coordinate, which is represented by the letter B. So it is abbreviated as UTC, the universal time coordinate. So the correct answer for 1.4.5 would be B, the universal time coordinate. So just a quick rundown: 1.4.1 D, 1.4.2 A, 1.4.3 E, then 1.4.4 it will be F. Then finally 1.4.5 that will be B. So this brings us to the end of the first question. Now moving on to the next question. So what we have there appearing on 2.1, it is known as a distance table. So when you're given a distance table, you use it to determine the distance between two different cities or two different towns. So I can just give you an example of how to use it. So here we have a city which is known as George. So for example, if you want to look at the distance between, let's say, George and Messina, which is on the far left, we have to identify where George is. So George is right on top there. Then we come down with our line like this, then up to the part which is written Messina. Then we also go to Messina. Then we also draw a line which takes us straight to George. Then in the end, you find that the distance between George and Messina, it will be 1,701 kilometers. So that is how you use a time zone. That is how you use a distance table. So we do have a scenario in which we are going to apply this table. The Smith family took a road trip from Johannesburg to Cape Town via Bloemfontein and Gqeberha. The itinerary was as follows: Johannesburg to Bloemfontein, that is day 1. So from day 1, they moved from Johannesburg to Bloemfontein. Then day 2, they moved from Bloemfontein to Gqeberha. Then from day 3, they moved from Gqeberha to Cape Town. So now going to the question itself, calculate the distance the Smith family traveled on day 1 and day 2 of their journey. That is from Johannesburg to Qeberha via Bloemfontein. So we need to highlight what our question requires them. So calculate the distance that the Smith family traveled on day 1 and day 2. So we are only focusing on day 1 and day 2. So back to our distance table. So we need to determine the distance between Johannesburg and Bloemfontein. So we first need to identify where Johannesburg is. This is our Johannesburg. Then we also need to identify where Bloemfontein is. This is our Bloemfontein. So we try to look at the points where these two places intersect. So the first thing, we go down with our Bloemfontein from here. Then it intersects with Johannesburg on this place. So it means from Johannesburg to Bloemfontein, it is actually 398 kilometers. Then we also go from Bloemfontein to Qeberha. So where is our Qeberha? This is our Qeberha. Then we trace its line. All right, up until we reach Qeberha, then it gives us 677. So we take that 677, we put it here, 677 kilometers. So the question reads, calculate the distance the Smith family traveled on day 1 and day 2 of their journey. So it means we are going to add the distance of day 1 plus the distance of day 2. So we do simple addition. 8 plus 7, it is 15, carry 1. 9 plus 7, that is 16, plus 1, 17, carry 1. Then 3 plus 6, that is 9 plus 1, you get 10. So the total distance which was traveled on day 1, it is 1,075 kilometers. You can also use your calculators whereby you add 398 plus 677. So the total distance traveled on the first 2 days equates, or it is equivalent to 1,000. The total distance which was traveled on those 2 days, it is equivalent to 1,075 kilometers. So that is our first answer. Now moving on to the next question. Moving on to the next question. Calculate the total distance the Smith family traveled in full for the full journey from day 1 to day 3. So we already have the answer for day 1, which is 1,075. Then we are going to add it with the distance between Qeberha and Cape Town. So if we look at Qeberha, this is Qeberha. So then if we trace it to Cape Town, we get this figure, which is 769. So we say 1,075 plus 765 plus 765. So let me try to calculate it using the normal addition route, but you can also make use of your calculator. 1,075 plus 765. So let's try to do it using addition. 5 plus 5, that is 10. So we write 0, then we carry our 1. 7 plus 6, that's 13 plus 1. It becomes 14, we write our 4, carry 1. 0 plus 7, that's 7 plus 1. It becomes 8. Then 1 plus 0, that's 1. So if you look at the total distance which was traveled, it is actually 1,840. So that is the total distance, 1,840 kilometers would be our total distance. Then the next question, the total distance between Qeberha and Cape Town is 769. 769. I think there's a point of correction, 769. So kilometers. The Smiths departed Quebec at 6 o'clock on day one. The traveling speed was 1,000 kilometers per hour. Calculate their time of arrival. So we say 769. That is the total distance. So the traveling speed is equals to 100 kilometers per hour. So what we need is the arrival time. So we need to apply the formula distance, speed is equals to distance over time. So in this case, we have been given speed, which is 100, is equals to 1,000, is equals to, the distance is 769. So we are looking for time. We haven't been given time. So our time would be, what you call it? So in order to calculate our time, we say, in order to calculate our time, we have to change the equation here. We have been given 100 kilometers, then we also have been given 769. So we have to divide 769. Then we get 7,69. Then we change this 69, 0,69 times 60 minutes. If you use a calculator, it will give you 41 minutes. So the total distance was 7 hours and 41 minutes. So the trick which is here is that we have been given the speed and also the distance. So in order to determine the time, we need to divide the distance by the given speed in that particular scenario. So that is how we ended up having 7 hours, 41 minutes. Now moving on to 3.1. So if you look at 3.1, you can see that what we have there is a tourist map indicating the different roads or the national routes which are found in South Africa. As you can see, we have the N1, we have the N14, we also have the N4, then we also have the N2, the N3, and several other roads. So the letter N stands for, so they need the abbreviation for the letter N. The letter N stands for national road or national route. So these are roads which link different provinces. Then 3.1.2 reads, a tourist would like to travel from Gauteng to Mozambique. Give the number of the shortest route. So we have tourist who needs to travel from Gauteng. So we go back and identify Gauteng on the map. So Gauteng is here. So they need to travel to Mozambique, which is here. So the shortest route will be using the N4, which passes through Johannesburg. Then it goes straight to Mozambique. So the N4 would be the correct route to use here. So N4. The neighboring country that a tourist will reach when traveling towards the N7. So let's try to identify where the N7 is. So the N7, if we look carefully on the map, we find it in the Western Cape, just after Cape Town, next to Harris. So the N7, let's trace it where it can take us to. So if it tracks the N7, it goes up until the Republic of Namibia. So the N7 is a route which takes you to Namibia. So name the neighboring country that is Namibia. That is the neighboring country which will take you, which will be taken by the N7. Then a tourist travels with the N3 from Johannesburg to Durban. So if you are moving from Johannesburg to Durban, the journey starts in Gauteng. Name two other provinces that travel, two other provinces then tourists will travel through. So a tourist travel from the N3 from Johannesburg to Durban. So let's look at the N3 from Johannesburg to Durban. So if you look at the N3 there, it passes through the Free State, then partially passes through also the, so it passes through the Free State, it also passes through Mpumalanga. So, and tourist travels with the N3 from Johannesburg to Durban. Name two other provinces the tourists will travel through. So basically it's Free State and KwaZulu-Natal itself. It will be Free State and KZN. Free State and KwaZulu-Natal. These are the two provinces. We have the Free State province and KwaZulu-Natal. These are the two provinces which this particular tourist is going to pass through. Then we also encounter a new type of a map which appears there. So the question reads, identify the type of map above. If you look at the map which appears above, that is known as a physical map. That is known as a physical map, or you can call it a topographical map. Physical or topographical map, because it shows the topography, it shows physical characteristics. For example, you can see the Kalahari Desert. Yes, you can see them. You can see the different mountains which appear there, and also the Great Karoo. So this is an example of a physical map. Then identify the rivers labeled. Identify the rivers which are labeled A and B. So the first river, A and B. So we are looking at the first river, which is A. The first river, which is A. They are looking for A. We do have the Harip River. The Harip River, and also the Orange River there, where they meet. Then on B, we do have the Limpopo River. So these are the two rivers which we can find there. Then name the mountain range at sea of which Tavana Nhlenyana is the highest peak. So we are talking about these mountains which are on the border of Lesotho and KwaZulu-Natal. So these are known as the Drakensberg Mountains. They are known as the Drakensberg Mountains, or they are known as the Drakensberg Mountain Range. So that's where you find Tavana Nhlenyana. 3.2.4, give the name of the mountain which is South Africa, one of South Africa's most famous landmarks labeled D. So the most famous mountain which is found in D is known as the Table Mountain. It is actually known as the Table Mountain. So that is the most famous mountain which is found in Cape Town. Then question C, South Africa map. Study the map of South Africa and answer the questions that follow. So we do have the map of South Africa. It has various labels. We do have letters from A. We have letter A here. We also have letter B, D, and also C. So they also, it also reads, identify the ocean labeled A. The ocean labeled A, which is on South Africa's eastern coast, is known as the Indian Ocean. So this is the Indian Ocean. Why are we saying that is the Indian Ocean? If you draw a compass now, you can see that this is a compass. This is our north. This is our south. This is our east. This is our west. So the Indian Ocean is on the east coast of South Africa. That's why we are saying that this is the Indian Ocean. So A, that is the Indian Ocean. Then moving on to the next letter, we do have name the capital city of the province labeled C. So we are looking for the capital city of the province labeled C. So this is the smallest province in South Africa, which is known as Gauteng province. So the capital of Gauteng province is known as Johannesburg. That is the capital of Gauteng province. It is known as Johannesburg. So the capital of the province labeled C, that is Johannesburg. Then moving on to the next question, which is question 4.3. Name the main airport found in Province D. So if you look at Province D, that is the Western Cape. So the main airport which is found in the Western Cape, it is known as Cape Town International Airport. So the Cape Town International Airport is found in Province D. Cape Town International Airport. That is found in Province D. Then the next question, 4.4, identify the ocean labeled B. So the ocean which is labeled B, it is known as the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic Ocean is found on South Africa's western coast. It is known as the Atlantic Ocean, which is found on the western coast of the country. Atlantic Ocean. Then moving on to 4.5, Province C is the most visited province in South Africa. Provide a reason for your answer. So if we go back to the map itself, you find that Province C, that is Gauteng. So they need an answer which explains why Gauteng is the most visited province. So the first reason is that it has the largest gateway. It has the largest international gateway through the OR Tambo International Airport. So it is the largest international gateway. So most tourists, they come into the country through OR Tambo International Airport. That's why it is the most visited province in South Africa. It has the international. Then you can also indicate that it is the economic hub of the country. The economic hub of the country. So most of the economic activities take place in Gauteng. No wonder why it is the most visited province in the country. Okay, moving on to question 5. Identify the continent labeled number 5. So we do have the world map which appears there in the image there. So if you look at continent 5, which is to the northern side of on the northern side of Africa, that is Europe. So continent 5 would be Europe. So we would write Europe next to the question number. That would be Europe. Then 5.2, name the ocean between continents 2 and 3. So if you look at continents 2 and 3, 2, that will be South America. So let's first start by identifying the two continents. This is South America. Then 3 would be Africa. So the continent which lies in between is known as the Atlantic Ocean. That is the Atlantic Ocean. All right. The next question, 5.3, the Caribbean island group labeled 7. The Caribbean island group is labeled 7. Give one way how the people of this island group benefit from tourism. All right. They benefit from tourism in the following ways. These islands receive large numbers of tourists from North America. Tourists from North America. Who visits to enjoy the warm Caribbean climate These tourists create jobs and business opportunities. So these tourists, they would in turn create jobs and various business opportunities. Then moving on to question 6. So question 6, the main focus will be on it will be introduction to tourists, the types of tourists and the different types of attractions which are found in the tourism industry. So 6.1, identify the type of tourists for the following scenarios. Write full question numbers and answers. 6.1.1, Ntando travels to Mpumalanga to enjoy Ndebele art such as the unique house paintings. So we would actually put Tando in the cultural tourist category. So Tando would be a cultural tourist, simply because the attractions she is actually consuming are related to Ndebele culture. So in that regard, we refer to her as a cultural tourist. Then we also have 6.1.2. A group of Zionists travel to Limpopo during the Easter weekend. And so these are known as religious tourists, simply because they are paying pilgrimage, or they are actually conducting pilgrimage to the Limpopo province. So we label them as religious tourists. So religious tourists would be the appropriate response for this particular question. 6.2.1, the Kruger National Park is an example of an attraction subsector. So, name the attraction subsector. So the attraction subsector would be actually ecotourism. This falls under ecotourism. That would be the attraction subsector. Then 6.2.2, God's window is a secondary attraction. Explain the meaning of the term secondary attraction. So a secondary attraction refers to another attraction which a tourist can visit or enjoy in addition to his main purpose of visit. Okay, so a secondary attraction refers to another attraction which a tourist can visit or can enjoy in addition to the main purpose of that particular visit. So the main purpose might be visiting the Blight Canyon, but in addition to that, they might also end up visiting God's window. So that's why we are considering God's window as a secondary attraction. So 6.2.3, discuss one way in which mass tourism is a threat to the Kruger National Park. So mass tourism results in environmental degradation, all right. It also results in water pollution, also results in land pollution as well. Then it can also result in other social problems such as cultural dilution as well. So in as much as tourism can be a positive activity, it also comes with its own down sides. So question 7, structure of the tourism industry. Refer to the logos below and answer the questions that follow. So the first logo is of the TBCSA. Then the second one, we have only been given a logo, but there is no name given to that particular logo. Then we also have a scenario which reads, study the information below and answer the questions that follow. The Kruger National Park is South Africa's flagship national park. More than 1 million tourists visit the Kruger National Park in a year, mostly with the hope to see the Big Five. So Pilgrim's Rest, God's Window, Mark Falls, and the Box Lake Portals are nearby attractions. So write the acronym for the logo labeled A. So if we look at A, it is TBCSA. So the full name of TBCSA is the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. That is TBCSA. Then give one function of the organization represented by the logo A. So it is the umbrella body that represents, the interest of tourism businesses. It is the umbrella body that represents the interest of the tourism business community in South Africa. So that is TBCSA. So that is the function of the TBCSA. Then 7.4, discuss one way how the organization identified in 7.3 ensures quality tourism as stated by the slogan. So if you look at B, so before we move on to 7.4, let's also answer 7.3. 7.3 reads, name the organization represented by the logo labeled B. So on B, we only have a logo, but there was no name given. So the name should be the TGCSA. So the name of the organization is TGCSA, which means the Tourism Grading Council of South Africa. That is the TGCSA, the Tourism Grading Council of South Africa. So we have answered 7.3, name the organization represented by the logo labeled P. That's the TGCSA, Tourism Grading Council of South Africa. Now moving on to 7.4, discuss one way in which the organization identified in question 7.3 ensures quality in tourism as stated by the slogan. So if we look at the function of the TGCSA, so the TGCSA is responsible for grading, accommodation, and hotel establishments. So their main responsibility is the grading of accommodation and hotel establishments, whereby they use a star rating they use a rating scale from 1 star up until 5 star. So if a hotel has exceptional services, they would actually label it as a 5-star hotel. Then if it has basic services, they would label that hotel as a 1-star hotel. Then when it is in between, it can be categorized as 2-star hotel or 3-star or even 4-star hotel. So the TGCSA is responsible for grading accommodation and hotel establishments. Then they are also responsible for providing accurate information. They provide accurate information to tourists about the different hotel or tourist establishment, about accommodation, and hotels. In addition to that, they also help in marketing hotels. They help in marketing hotels and hotel establishments. Hotels on their website. So these are the different ways in which this organization ensures that there is quality in them in the tourism sector. Then moving on to the next question, new addition to the hotel group, we do have a scenario which is there. So it reads under hotels and lodges. Then as you can see from the stars which appear on the image there, it is actually rated as a 4-star hotel. Then we also have the text which appears below. The AHA groups of hotel launched its new hotel in White River, Mbombela, situated only 15 kilometers from the Habeni Gate of the Kruger National Park. The resort has 54 rooms, ranging from standard twin and double rooms, family suite, and a grand suite, which comes with a private pool and a jacuzzi. Then there is also an image which appears, which also shows what you can expect when you walk in to the hotel. Then the question now reads, read the scenario and answer the question. So we have read the scenario. Now the question reads, explain or differentiate between a twin room and a double room. So let me start with 8.1.1. All right. So a twin room contains two separate beds It contains two separate beds in the same room, which can be used by two individuals. Used by two different individuals. So a twin room contains two separate beds in the same room used by two different individuals. Whereas a double room, it contains a double bed which can be shared It contains a double bed which can be shared by two people. Then in brackets, you can write by a couple. For example, a couple. So that's the main difference. In a twin room, we have two separate beds in the same room, which are meant to be used by two different individuals. Then in a double room, we have a double bed, which can be shared by two people, or they can be shared by a couple. Then 8.1.2, the hotel has a 4-star grading. Explain one way in which the hotel benefits from being a star graded establishment. When a hotel is star graded, it attracts more tourists, as they would expect value for their money. So this would attract more tourists as they would expect more value for their money. In addition to that, this adds credibility to the hotel, a sense of credibility. People gain a sense of trust when it comes to considering that particular hotel. So it adds a sense of credibility, which brings more tourists and more income. In more tourists, resulting in additional income. It results in more tourists and additional income. Then, moving on to the next one, it reads, study the facilities and services offered by a hotel. Answer the questions that follow. So we do have the key card. We also have the check-in. We also have the passport, the elevator. Then we also have massage, Wi-Fi, the safe, the laundry, fitness. We have a pool. Then there's also a restaurant and television. Identify 2 facilities offered by the hotel. So the facilities which we can identify, there are pool facilities then. So the tourists can actually swim in the swimming pool. So that's an example of a facility. Then we also have fitness facilities, which might be in the form of a gymnasium. So then fitness facilities can also be included there. So identify 2 facilities offered by the hotel, the pool and the fitness facilities. Then in addition to that, 8.2.2, identify 1 service offered by the hotel. So in terms of service, we can identify the following services. The first is laundry services. They actually do laundry on behalf of the guests, which they might pay for, or it might be inclusive of their accommodation fees. So identify 1 service, that is laundry service. Then identify 1 symbol for each of the following. Technology for safety. So technology for safety, in this case, it is the use of a key card which limits the type of guests who would visit the particular hotel. Only authorized guests would have access to the room. So key cards are an example of technology for safety. Then we also have on B, technology for entertainment. The television can be considered to be technology for entertainment. So the television in this case would be the technology for entertainment. Then moving on to C, technology for work. So a guest might make use of the Wi-Fi to work remotely or to work online. So the technology of work for work in this scenario will be the Wi-Fi. So explain 1 way from the symbols above how hotel caters for people in tourists. Explain 1 way from the symbols above how the hotel caters for people in tourists. So let's go let me take that again. Explain 1 way from the symbols above how the hotel caters for people in wheelchairs. So we want to see how the hotel accommodates people with disabilities. So in this case, instead of them using the stairs, they can actually make use of the elevator. They can actually use the elevator. So you can say the hotel allows people with disabilities, people living with disabilities, to navigate the hotel using elevators. So instead of them climbing the stairs or taking their wheelchairs in through the stairs, they can actually make use of elevators. So that is one way in which the hotel caters for people living with disabilities or people who are in wheelchairs. Now, moving on to question number 9, domestic, regional, and international tourism forms of payment. So the subheading will be domestic tourism. Define the term domestic tourism. All right, domestic tourism is the business of traveling within the borders of a country. So the definition of domestic tourism, it is the business of traveling within the borders of a particular country. That is domestic tourism. Then 9.1.2, differentiate between interprovincial travel, differentiate between intra-provincial travel and interprovincial travel. So when we look at intra-provincial, it refers to travel within the same province. Intra-provincial refers to travel within the same province. For example, if you are living in Gauteng, e.g., when you are living in Gauteng, when you travel from Soweto to Centon, that's intra-provincial travel. So you are traveling within the same province. You are not crossing the provincial borders. Now, when it comes to interprovincial, travel, it actually refers to travel between or amongst provinces. Travel between different provinces or amongst different provinces. E.g., when a tourist leaves Durban, remember Durban is in KZN, and then they visit Kimberley, which is in the Northern Cape. Then from Kimberley, they go to Mpumalanga, to Nelspruit, which is in Mpumalanga. So that would be an example of interprovincial travel. So which brings us to the end of 9.1.2. Then question 9.2, study the graph below and answer the questions that follow. So there is a graph which, yes, on the y-axis, we have the various provinces. Then we also have the length of stay or the average days which tourists spent in various provinces. So we have all the 9 provinces then. Then we also have a scenario which reads, Mpumalanga is the province in which the tourists stayed the longest, an average of 16 days per visit. The Northern Cape is the province where tourists stayed the shortest time, an average. The Northern Cape is the province where tourists stayed the shortest time, an average of 4 days per visit. Suggest one reason why Mpumalanga is the province with the longest average stay. So one possible reason is the existence of the Kruger National Park, Kruger National Park is actually located in Mpumalanga and other parts of the Limpopo province. So the existence of the Kruger National Park, which attracts the safari type of tourists. Tourists might be the reason. So the existence of the Kruger National Park, which attracts the safari type of tourist. So remember, when you're talking about the safari type of tourist, we are talking about those eco-tourists who visit national parks for longer periods. They might stay in a national park for more than a month, for a minimum of a month, or even they can even go beyond a month. So that is the reason why in Mpumalanga, yes, the longest average stay. So discuss in a paragraph 2 ways on how the Northern Cape province authorities can attract more visitors and get visitors to stay longer. So the first thing is that the Northern Cape officials, Cape province tourism officials, can launch a vigorous marketing drive marketing drive which showcases the attractions which the province has to offer, which the province has on offer, the attractions which the province has on offer. So the first thing is to launch, or the first strategy will be launching an aggressive marketing drive, which showcases the attractions which the province has on offer. Then, in addition to that, they can launch partnerships between tour operators, hotel operators, and airline companies. They can launch partnerships between tour operators, hotel operators, airline companies, in which unique tour packages can be created to encourage longer visits. All right, so they can also create unique tour packages which can encourage longer visits. Then also, they can also offer things like promotions for people and discounts for people who stay longer. Or you can call them incentives for people who stay longer. So these are some of the alternative responses which you can provide for that particular question. Then moving on to the next question, which is question 10. We do have an infographic which appears there. Then we do have a point of sale machine which appears there. Also, you have images of credit cards. We also have a swipe machine. We also have another icon indicating the availability of connectivity. And we also have a smart gadget or a smartphone, which also appears then. So identify the payment method labeled A. So the payment method labeled A, you can call it a speed point. So you can call it a speed point, but it also facilitates EFT, electronic funds transfer, whereby you simply make your payments without using hard cash. Then provide one advantage and one disadvantage for a tourism business in using internet banking. So let's look at the first advantage. So it is a safer method than handling cash transactions. Cash transactions, especially in South Africa, considering the high crime rates which is prevalent in the country. So it is a safer method than handling cash. Then it is faster. Usually payments are instant, or they actually reflect instantly. But the disadvantage is that it relies on stable connectivity to the internet. So it relies heavily on stable connections to the internet. So this might be a disadvantage, especially for tourism businesses which are located in remote parts of the country. Which disadvantages? Remote tourism businesses. So for those who operate in the cities, it can be fine. But for those who operate in remote areas, in parks, in national parks like the Kruger National Park, or even in the Karoo there, it can be a challenge. So it relies on stable connectivity to the internet, which disadvantages remote tourism businesses, rather. Then in addition to that, it can be affected by power cuts, especially when we go through load shedding. Some payments might not go through, or you might not be able to transact at all by power cuts. So that will be the second disadvantage. So just to do a recap then. So the question reads, provide one advantage and one disadvantage for a tourism business in using internet banking. So we have mentioned that it is a safer method than handling cash. Then it is also faster. Then on the downside, we indicated that it relies on stable connectivity to the internet, which disadvantages those tourism businesses which are located in the remote parts of the country. Then it can also be severely affected by power cuts, which will be the last point. So the total for section D would be 15 marks. Then the grand total for that particular paper will be 100 marks. So thank you very much. Good luck.